Jillian Nelson, and this is my capstone from last year on gender equality in NASA. I have roughly 65 hours in this project, and my driving question is, how has gender equality affected NASA's past, present, and how is it going to affect their future? I wanted to start my presentation with a little quote that I found from Johnson Freeze, which is, "More women equals more attention to solving problems and maintaining the sustainability of the space environment." NASA women! So this is kind of like the subject of, big NASA women that I found and who had cool stories and cool backgrounds into NASA. So yeah. So the first one I'm going to talk about is Annie Mclean. She is a 41-year-old woman, and she used to be a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army and is now a NASA astronaut. She has over 2,000 flight hours in 20 different aircrafts, which I thought was really cool just because that seems like a lot. But the main story that I wanted to talk about was the solar panel repair and the first all-female spacewalk that was supposed to happen on March 29th that didn't happen because of suit availability. They only had one medium-sized spacesuit on the aircraft that she was in, so she actually opted out, and the solar panel repair was done by Nick Hugh and Christina Crouch. The next person was Rinnie Nguyen. She used to be in the Environmental Protection Agency, where she was the acting assistant administrator for the Office of Environmental Information, to where she went away from that and went into NASA and became the chief executive officer, and then retired in April of 2020. And then Valentina Tereshkova, she was the first woman to be in space. She was also the first and youngest woman to have flown into space, which was pretty cool. And on a solo mission. She's pretty rad. She did that on the Vostok 6, which was on June 16th in 1963. She orbited Earth over 48 times on the one mission and was a Russian mathematician. And Elaine Collins was a former military instructor and test pilot, and then came in to NASA and became the first female pilot and first female commander of a space shuttle on the STS-63 in 1995. Hidden Figures. This is a very known story around. There's a movie and a book based on it, but there's a lot of hidden information that goes into it. So yeah. So the first people that I'm going to talk about are Mary Jackson, Katherine Johnson, and Dorothy Vo, who were the main people of the big Hidden Figure story. They were actually the first black managers at Langley, and their work is what put John Glenn, who was our first American to be into orbit in 1962. So kind of the big story behind this is, in 1935, hundreds of women were recruited into NASA to become human computers, is what they called them. And human computers is pretty much when people can do math by hand. So this became a super big thing where they were just hiring a bunch of women to come in and be their computers for them. And eventually segregation policies made them separate these women into a different area, which became West Area Computers. Yeah. And then back with the human computers. This mainly happened during World War II. Langley recruited like a bunch of African American women to come in and be human computers. So that was like a big controversy. Underrepresentation of women. So this is where I went into percentages and kind of went over the main idea of our main differences in NASA. So I've got lovely pictures and a lovely bar graph. The bar graph mainly represents I'm just gonna explain it. So roughly 17,000 people work in NASA, and about 5,000 of them were women. 28% of women were in leadership executive positions. 16% of women were in senior scientific employee positions. 11.5% of astronauts are women, meaning out of the 566 roughly astronauts, 65 of them are women. 20% of women in NASA are engineers, or 20% of their engineers are women. 18.2% are computer scientists, and 20% are professional computing workforce. So yeah, that was just kind of interesting to look at. So I think, the last thing I want to talk about was our first all-female spacewalk that finally did get to happen. On October 18th in 2019, Christina Koch and Jessica Meir were on the ISS, and they officially went out to do a spacewalk to repair a battery discharge unit on the ISS that took about 7 hours and 17 minutes. So that was just kind of cool to look into. But yeah. These are my sources that were never continued. Yeah. Thank you for listening. Any questions or comments?
Are you planning on furthering this project this year, or?
I was hoping to do kind of a sequel to it, but probably not this year. Gavin?
You said earlier that this project was from last year, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Do you still remember why you decided to do this project?
I do, actually. My capstone was originally going to be on NASA as a whole, and at 3 in the morning one morning, I decided, because I was looking at a website on women in NASA, I decided that I was going to change my whole capstone into gender equality in NASA. So that's kind of how that went. Eden.
Do you think that the amount of women working for NASA compared to the amount of men working for NASA will be more equal in the future?
That is their hope. They have been trying to recruit more and more women, but it's a big controversy right now on how women are treated in NASA compared to how they'd be treated if they went and did a desk job. Paris.
Who inspired you?
That's a big question. I think the biggest person to inspire me was Annie Mclean. Just because I did so much research on her story, and there's so much more I could have talked about her, and she just became one of the big inspirations for this project. So, Mason.
Oh yeah, I was gonna ask who is your favorite female to learn about? That kind of actress.
Yeah. Probably Annie Mclean or Valentina Tereshkova. She she was really cool to learn about as well. But I didn't actually get a lot of information on her, which was a little upsetting. But yeah.